The galaxy was calm. It had been peaceful for hundreds of years, with no major wars or conflicts. The different species of the universe had all learned to coexist, forming alliances, treaties, and councils. It was a time of stability, where the greatest threat was no longer the enemy across the stars, but the natural forces that governed their worlds. Peace reigned, and the galaxy felt like it would last forever. But peace, as it often does, was a fragile thing. One strange signal was all it took to break this calm. It started as a whisper in the silence of space. A faint signal, weak and fragmented, came from a distant corner of the galaxy. Human space. No one had expected anything to come from there. Humans were a young species, known for their quick, unpredictable nature. Their history was full of rapid growth, war, and sudden changes, but they had mostly kept to themselves for a long while. Most believed they were still rebuilding, recovering from past struggles. Yet this signal was different. At first, no one knew what it meant. The signal's source was far from any known human colony or base. It seemed as though it was coming from nowhere, drifting between star systems, with no clear origin. The message itself was broken, scrambled, but as it spread across the galaxy, various alien species began to pick it up on their communication networks. At first, they thought it was a mistake, just some interference from the deep space. But the message repeated itself. Human warship, prepare for action. Approaching. The word sent a chill through the heart of every galactic leader. A warship. The humans had always been known for their strange, unpredictable technology. But a warship? No one had seen or heard about one of these in centuries. Had humans built something so dangerous? Or worse, was this some kind of trap? The Galactic Council immediately called for an emergency meeting. Representatives from various races sat at a round table, tense and anxious. The first race to speak was a species known as the Arcturians. Tall, pale, and wise, they were the closest to the humans in terms of history. Is it true? Could humans have developed a warship? They'd been silent for years, said the Arcturian representative, his voice grave. An elder from the Tiberian race, a group known for their military might, was quick to reply. We cannot ignore this. The humans are unpredictable. They do not follow our treaties, our customs. And now, they are sending a warship into the galaxy. What do they intend? Other representatives exchanged uneasy glances. The room fell silent as they all considered the implications of what was happening. The galaxy had been at peace for so long. The very thought that humans might now break that peace was terrifying. The signal continued to repeat, its broken fragments still unclear, but its meaning clear enough. Every few moments, the words human warship echoed through the communication systems, leaving every species uneasy. Some of the more advanced species, like the Zorathians, suggested that this could be a mistake, perhaps a malfunction in the human technology. But even they could not ignore the weight of the signal. There was no doubt about it. The humans were sending something. The question was, what? In a distant human sector, the crew of a small research vessel listened to the signal. They were among the first humans to hear it clearly, and they understood the consequences. It wasn't just a message, it was a warning. The human warship was real. It was coming, and the galaxy wasn't ready for it. The captain of the vessel, a no-nonsense woman named Captain Elena Martinez, felt the weight of the message. She was an experienced leader, known for her calm demeanor even in the most dangerous situations. But this was different. This wasn't just a normal mission. This was something big. Captain, we've received confirmation from the fleet, said her first officer, Lieutenant Cato. The warship is real. They're not just testing the signal, they're sending it across the galaxy. Martinez took a deep breath, her mind racing. She knew what this meant. The humans had never been a threat before, but now they had something no one had seen. A weapon, a warship, and the galaxy would never be the same again. She stood up from her seat, her mind sharp and focused. Prepare a transmission to the Council. We need to make sure they understand. This is not a drill. This is the real thing. The warship will arrive soon, and nothing will stop it." The silence in the council chambers was deafening. For the first time in centuries, the leaders of the galaxy were unsure of their next move. The peace they had known seemed fragile, about to break apart with the arrival of a single ship. Meanwhile, the warship continued its approach, traveling silently through the black void of space. Its advanced technology allowed it to remain undetected, its engines muffled by the void. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but soon it would. The human warship was approaching, and with it, the power of humanity would be felt by every species across the stars. The message was simple, yet powerful. Humanity was back, and this time, they were ready to make their mark. As the signal continued to echo across the galaxy, one question lingered in the air. What would happen when the human warship arrived? As the signal continued to resonate across the galaxy, it began to change. What was once a faint whisper, a simple message repeating itself, now became a full-blown transmission. It was as if the humans were preparing for something far more than a simple diplomatic gesture. Every civilization that had once felt secure in their place within the galaxy was now looking over their shoulders. Something was coming, something human. The galaxy's leaders scrambled to assemble their fleets, each one reacting with varying levels of fear and suspicion. The Zorethians, known for their superior technology and vast fleets, were the first to speak up. They called for an immediate council meeting, urging the Galactic Council to prepare for what was undoubtedly a threat. "Do you realize what this means?" spoke the Zorethian representative, his voice booming with authority. "Humans do not send warships without reason. The signal is clear, and we must prepare. Whatever they are sending, we need to be ready for it." The other representatives hesitated. For centuries, the Zorethians had held the title of the most advanced species in the galaxy. But even they understood that humans, with their unpredictable ways, could be a force to be reckoned with. What they hadn't anticipated, though, was the possibility of a single warship changing the balance of power. In the Galactic Council chambers, an emergency meeting was called. Leaders from all races, Tiberians, Arcturians, Velorans, and even the mysterious Urians, gathered around a central table. The question on everyone's mind was simple. How do you respond to a threat that you don't fully understand? And more troubling still, how do you stop something you can't even see coming? An Arcturian diplomat stood up, his long silver robe trailing behind him. His species had always prided itself on diplomacy and wisdom, but even his calm demeanor couldn't mask his worry. "We cannot allow ourselves to be blindsided by this," he said slowly. "While we have been debating issues of trade and territory, the humans have been silently building something dangerous. If they are truly sending a warship of this caliber, we must assume their intentions are hostile. But we don't know their intentions." The Veloran representative interjected, his voice sharp. "What if they are simply trying to send a message? After all, it has been so long since humanity has engaged in any galactic conflict. Are we so quick to assume that they come for war?" The council fell into an uneasy silence. Even after years of cooperation, there was always tension between the species. The Velorans, with their peaceful nature, were often the outliers in such discussions. But in this case, their words held weight. Captain Elena Martinez, still aboard the research vessel in human space, listened closely to the developing situation. It wasn't long before word reached her that the council was in an uproar. Her mind raced. Was the human warship really something to be feared, or had the galaxy misunderstood the intent behind it? Elena knew the truth. Humans didn't build warships to make friends. That was the human way. But even she hadn't anticipated the sheer magnitude of what was about to happen. The ship wasn't just a weapon. It was a message, a statement. And now, with the fleet on alert, that message was only growing louder. "We need to contact the fleet," Elena ordered, turning to her crew. "Prepare for launch. Let's make sure the message gets through clearly. Meanwhile, in the depths of human space, on a dark moon orbiting an uninhabited planet, the warship was ready. The Righteous Fury, as it was named, sat quietly in its docking bay, awaiting orders. Unlike the delicate ships of the Galactic Council, this ship was massive. Its steel-like hull gleamed faintly under the moon's light, and its weapon systems were more advanced than anything anyone in the galaxy had ever seen. The ship had been under construction for years. Hidden in the shadows of a forgotten moon, the humans had secretly built it. Every inch of its design was meant for one purpose: to send a clear, undeniable message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the timid species from a backwater planet. They had arrived, and they were here to stay. The crew of the warship, a diverse mix of human soldiers, engineers, and tactical specialists, prepared themselves for the unknown. No one knew exactly how the galaxy would react, but they all knew one thing: they were about to make history. The universe was not ready for what was coming. In the Galactic Council chambers, things were growing tense. The message had been sent. The humans were ready. The warship was approaching, and no one knew if the galaxy could withstand its arrival. At that very moment, the warship's engines hummed to life, and a single voice echoed through the communication channels. Righteous Fury, on course. Initiating full system check. Prepare for launch. The message was clear. The warship was on the move. Across the galaxy, the various species listened, their faces full of fear and uncertainty. A human warship was no longer just a distant threat. It was real, it was coming, and it would soon be in their midst. Now, all they could do was wait. The galaxy was holding its breath. As the Righteous Fury cruised through the void of space, it moved steadily towards the heart of galactic territory. News of its approach had spread like wildfire, and every corner of the galaxy was now gripped with tension. The Council had mobilized its best forces, but no one knew if it would be enough. The ship, silent and powerful, was the embodiment of a new age for humanity, one where they no longer played by the rules set by others. Inside the command center of the Righteous Fury, Captain Elena Martinez stood by the viewport, staring into the vast expanse of space. Her thoughts were as cold and focused as the ship itself. This wasn't just about military power. This was about sending a message to those who had long underestimated humanity's strength and will. The time for diplomacy had passed. The time for action had come. All systems are green, reported Lieutenant Jonas, the ship's operations officer. We are ready to make our entry into galactic space. Elena nodded, her mind racing. She had known this moment would come, but now that it was here, there was a sense of inevitability. The galaxy would see just what humanity was capable of. They would see the power, the precision, and the unyielding determination that humans brought to the table. Proceed with the course, Elena commanded. Let's make sure they understand what we're capable of. The Righteous Fury surged forward, its massive engines propelling it at incredible speed. The journey to the heart of galactic space had been long, but now, as the ship drew closer to the capital of the Galactic Council, the tension was palpable. Elena's crew remained silent, the weight of the mission heavy on their shoulders. Meanwhile, at the heart of the Galactic Council, leaders from every species were gathered for an emergency session. The sight of the human warship had left them scrambling, unsure of how to react. The Zorethians, once considered the supreme warriors of the galaxy, were especially vocal in their concerns. Their fleet had been monitoring the human ship's approach, and they had yet to decipher its true purpose. "It's too much," the Zorethian ambassador growled. "Humans cannot be allowed to operate with such unchecked power. We have to neutralize the threat before it reaches us." But other species, including the peaceful Valorans, disagreed. They had always believed in diplomacy and communication, and they were hesitant to jump to conclusions. After all, humans had been peaceful for so long, and they had no history of aggression on a galactic scale. "We cannot destroy what we do not understand," the Valoran representative argued. Perhaps this is a show of strength, not a declaration of war. We need to speak with them first. But the Zorathians were adamant. Their fleet had already been dispatched, and they were ready for whatever came next. They were not willing to take chances. The galaxy had grown comfortable with their dominance, and they were not about to let an upstart species like humanity threaten that. Back on the Righteous Fury, Alina received a transmission from the Council. It was a direct message, broadcast across all frequencies, demanding an immediate cease and desist. The message was clear. The human ship had entered their space, and they were to turn back at once. Alina's jaw tightened. She knew this moment was coming. The Council didn't understand humans, not yet. And now, they had made their move. But this was not the time for retreat. This was the time to prove that humanity had earned its place in the stars. "We're not going anywhere," Alina muttered to herself, her hand tightening on the controls. The human ship did not respond to the message. Instead, it continued to move forward, undeterred by the Council's warning. It was a bold statement, a defiant act of strength. The crew, well aware of the risks, remained steadfast. Their captain had given them one order: to show the galaxy that humans would no longer be ignored. As the Righteous Fury neared the capital, the first signs of trouble emerged. A fleet of Zorathian warships appeared on the edge of the system. The massive, sleek ships glided into position, ready to engage. Their weapons systems powered up, and their war machines hummed with deadly potential. The Zorathians had prepared for this. They would not let the humans break their hold on the galaxy. "We're surrounded," Lieutenant Jonas reported, his voice tense. "What are your orders, Captain?" Alina's expression hardened. She had expected this. The Zorathians were known for their arrogance, and now they were trying to intimidate the humans into submission. But Alina wasn't afraid. She had a plan. Humanity had learned from its mistakes in the past, and now they had something the galaxy hadn't anticipated: unity, determination, and the will to fight back. "Prepare for battle," Alina ordered. "Target the Zorathian-led ship. Show them what happens when they push us too far." The crew moved swiftly to their stations, their nerves steady. The human warship was equipped with cutting-edge technology, and its weapon systems were unparalleled. It was built for this moment, the moment when humanity would make its stand. Alina's heart raced, but she kept her focus. This was not just a fight for survival. This was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. The Zorathian fleet moved into position, ready to strike. But just as they were about to fire, Alina gave the order. Fire. The first salvo of energy blasts erupted from the Righteous Fury, tearing through space with blinding speed. The battle for the galaxy's future had begun, and the fate of humanity would be decided in the coming moments. The Righteous Fury trembled as the first volley of energy blasts tore through the void of space, striking the lead Zorathian warship. The immense ship, massive and sleek, shuddered under the force of the attack, but its shields held strong, glowing with a deep blue hue as they absorbed the blast. The Zorathians, known for their superior technology and battle tactics, immediately returned fire with precise beams of concentrated plasma, aimed directly at the human warship. The Righteous Fury shook again as the plasma beams struck its hull, but the ship's advanced armor and defensive systems easily absorbed the impact. The human ship had been designed specifically to withstand such attacks. Inside the command center, the crew remained calm, their eyes focused on their stations, ready for the next move. "Shields at 75%, reported Lieutenant Jonas, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Weapons are fully charged and ready to fire again." Captain Alina Martinez stood firm, her gaze fixed on the tactical display in front of her. She could see the Zorathian ships maneuvering into position, their weapons primed and their battle tactics unfolding. This was no ordinary fight. The Zorathians weren't just defending their territory, they were defending their pride, their dominance in the galaxy. The humans, however, were determined to show them that their reign was over. "Activate secondary cannons," Alina ordered. "Target their engines, We can't afford to let them escape." Her voice was clear and decisive, echoing through the command center. Every crew member knew what was at stake. The battle wasn't just for survival. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be held back any longer. With the order given, the righteous Fury unleashed a barrage of deadly energy blasts from its secondary weapons, hitting the engines of the closest Zorathian ship. The ship's massive engines erupted in a spectacular explosion, sending debris flying in every direction. The Zorathians' once impressive fleet was beginning to falter. "Direct hit," shouted Commander Anders, the ship's weapons officer, as the Zorathian ship began to lose control, spinning wildly through space. Elena nodded grimly. This was just the beginning. The righteous Fury had been built with precision in mind. Every weapon, every system, every detail designed to maximize human efficiency in battle. The crew worked together as a well-oiled machine, their actions synchronized with one purpose in mind: to make sure humanity's place in the stars was cemented. "More ships incoming," Lieutenant Jonas reported, his eyes wide as the Zorathian reinforcements arrived in the distance. Their massive ships, each one larger than the last, dropped out of faster-than-light travel and positioned themselves in a defensive formation. But the righteous Fury was ready for this. Elena had expected the Zorathians to call for reinforcements, and she had a plan. "Deploy countermeasures," Elena ordered. "Prepare the quantum disruptors." The crew worked quickly, launching the countermeasures designed to disorient and confuse the Zorathian ships. Bright flashes of light filled the space around them as the countermeasures detonated, temporarily blinding the Zorathian sensors. At the same time, the righteous Fury deployed quantum disruptors, which interfered with the Zorathians' communication systems, causing momentary confusion within their ranks. Elena smiled grimly. This wasn't just about sheer firepower. Humans had learned from their past mistakes, and now they were using their brains as much as their brawn. It was a calculated, deliberate battle, and the humans were in control. The Zorathians, disoriented by the quantum disruption, began to lose their coordinated efforts. Ships veered off course, unable to communicate effectively with one another. The humans seized the opportunity. "Target their command ships," Elena ordered. "We break their leadership. We break their will." The righteous Fury fired again, this time focusing all its power on the Zorathian command ships. The energy blasts cut through the darkness of space, striking their targets with deadly precision. One by one, the Zorathian command ships began to explode, their shields unable to withstand the barrage. On the Zorathian flagship, panic spread like wildfire. Their once proud fleet was falling apart, and the humans had proven to be far more resourceful than they had ever anticipated. The Zorathian commander, once confident in their superiority, now found himself facing a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "We need to retreat," the Zorathian commander shouted, his voice shaking with fear. "We are outmatched." But it was too late. The humans had struck quickly and decisively, and their warship was already moving into position for the final blow. The righteous Fury wasn't just an invincible weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's resolve, their refusal to be subjugated, their determination to rise above any challenge. Back aboard the righteous Fury, Elena stood tall, watching the Zorathian fleet crumble under the weight of their own arrogance. She knew this was only the beginning of a larger struggle, but humanity had made its mark. The galaxy would never forget this day. The battle for dominance had only just begun, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. "Captain, the Zorathian fleet is in full retreat," Lieutenant Jonas reported, a note of disbelief in his voice. "We've won." Elena didn't smile. She didn't need to. The message had been sent. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were more than capable of standing up for themselves. They had shattered the illusion of Zorathian superiority. And now, their place in the stars was assured. "Prepare for the next step," Elena said quietly. "We've won this battle. but the war is just beginning. The Zorathian fleet, once brimming with confidence, was now in disarray. The once unshakable power of their command structure had been broken. The righteous fury had taken down their leaders, leaving them without direction or coordination. It was clear to the human crew that the tides of this battle had turned decisively in their favor. Captain Elena Martinez stood at the center of the command deck, her mind working quickly through the next steps. Her eyes flicked over the tactical display as it painted a picture of chaos. Zorathian ships scattering in every direction, many attempting to retreat, others trying to regroup. But none of them were organized. None of them were fighting as one. "Order them to hold the line," Elena said with calm authority, glancing at her first officer, Commander Anders. "We push forward now, while they're vulnerable." Anders nodded, immediately sending the orders to the fleet. The rest of the human ships, including the smaller but agile cruisers and support vessels, fell into formation behind the righteous fury, all weapons primed for another assault. "All ships are ready, Captain," Anders reported after a tense moment of silence. "Good," Elena replied, her voice firm. "We end this now." The righteous fury surged forward, its massive hull cutting through space like a blade. With every pulse of its engines, the human fleet gained on the disorganized Zorathians. As they approached, the human warships launched a second barrage of weapons. Precision strikes this time. Laser beams, plasma bolts, and electromagnetic pulses, all designed to cripple the Zorathian fleet's remaining strength. The Zorathian vessels fought back with what little they had left, but they were scattered, their remaining commanders struggling to issue orders over the disrupted communication networks. The remaining Zorathian ships fought fiercely, but they were outclassed, outnumbered, and underprepared for the overwhelming force of the humans' combined might. The righteous fury was relentless, its weapons fired with unyielding force, tearing through Zorathian shields and hulls with every shot. One by one, the Zorathian ships succumbed to the onslaught, their once pristine fleets burning in the blackness of space. The human fleet didn't stop. They pushed forward with cold precision, determined to secure victory. But even as the tide of battle seemed to be shifting entirely in humanity's favor, Captain Elena Martinez knew better than to let her guard down. She knew that the Zorathians would not surrender easily. They were proud warriors, and they would fight to the very end. "Incoming. Reinforcements," Lieutenant Jomas called out from the sensor station. His voice betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. More Zorathian ships coming from the dark side of the moon. Elena's eyes narrowed. She had anticipated this, though. The Zorathians, in their desperation, had likely called for reinforcements from a nearby hidden base. But this was not the first time she had faced an overwhelming threat, and it would not be the last. "Deploy the drones," Elena ordered without hesitation. "Activate the point defense lasers. We will not let them regroup." The ship's defense systems activated at once. A swarm of small, heavily armed drones shot out from the righteous fury's belly. They circled around the human warship like angry bees, intercepting incoming fire and striking with deadly accuracy. Their rapid movements and precise shots were enough to neutralize many of the incoming Zorathian ships before they even had a chance to fire back. "Now," Elena commanded, turning back to her weapons officer. "Take them out before they can regroup." Commander Anders nodded, his fingers flying over the controls as the ship's main cannons powered up for another devastating strike. In a brilliant flash of light, the righteous fury fired, sending a wave of destructive energy toward the approaching Zorathian ships. The lead ship and the reinforcements disintegrated in a violent explosion, sending debris spiraling into the black void. The remaining Zorathian ships hesitated, their commanders unsure whether to continue the attack or fall back in defeat. Elena watched closely, knowing that now was the critical moment. The Zorathians needed to be broken completely. The humans had seized the upper hand, but one final push was needed to secure total dominance. As if sensing the shift in momentum, the Zorathian fleet began to splinter. Some ships turned away, fleeing into the vastness of space. Others, too proud to retreat, fought to the last. But the humans had already won. The Zorathian fleet was shattered, and their once proud empire was beginning to collapse. "Victory is ours," Anders said quietly, his voice filled with awe as he watched the last Zorathian ships fleeing in disarray. But Captain Alina Martinez did not allow herself to feel relief just yet. She knew this battle was only one step in a larger conflict. The Zorathians had underestimated humanity, and they had paid the price. But there were many more challenges to come. "This is just the beginning," Alina murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "The galaxy will know our name." As the final Zorathian ships retreated into the vastness of space, Captain Alina Martinez felt the weight of the moment. The battle was won, but she knew that the consequences of their victory would ripple across the galaxy. The Zorathians might have been defeated for now, but they were just one of many powers in the galaxy. Humans had shown their might, but there were still many more to face, and not all of them would be as easy to defeat. The quiet on the command deck was palpable. The crew members had fought hard, their nerves stretched thin with each passing moment of the battle. Now they could breathe again. But Captain Martinez wasn't ready to celebrate. "Not yet." "Captain," Anders said, his voice steady but filled with an unmistakable undertone of respect. "We've done it. We've shattered their fleet." Alina nodded, her gaze still fixed on the star-filled expanse before them. "We have," she said, her voice firm. "But this is only one battle. The Zorathians won't forget what we've done. We've made our mark in their history, and they won't rest until they try again." Anders hesitated for a moment, glancing at the tactical display. "You think they'll come back for more?" "I know they will," Alina replied, her eyes sharp. "They'll lick their wounds, gather their forces, and then they'll strike again. But next time, it won't be just them. Others will be watching, and they'll see what we did to the Zorathians. They'll want to know if they can do the same to us. And if we're not ready, we'll be caught off guard." Anders' brow furrowed. "So what now, Captain?" "We prepare," Alina said. "We send a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity is not just a species to be ignored. We are a force to be reckoned with. And if anyone thinks they can challenge us, then let them come." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of humanity's triumph was spreading like wildfire. From the deepest reaches of space to the most remote star systems, the battle between humans and the Zorathians was the talk of every corner of the galaxy, and it was a message that had many different reactions. For the Zorathians, the defeat was a bitter blow. Their once mighty empire had been humiliated by what they had considered a primitive species. The loss was not just military, it was personal. Their arrogance had led them to underestimate the humans, and now they had to face the consequences. But the Zorathian leadership, ever proud, vowed vengeance. They could not let the humans get away with this. A new strategy was already being devised in the shadows of their war councils as they prepared for their inevitable return to challenge the humans once more. But it wasn't just the Zorathians who were paying attention. Other factions, alien empires, and star systems that had once looked down on humanity, thinking them weak and insignificant, were now reevaluating their stance. The humans had proven they were capable of much more than anyone had anticipated. The galaxy was beginning to take notice. The Archalians, a highly advanced race known for their technological prowess, watched with growing interest. They had heard the whispers of humanity's tactics, their fearless leadership, and their relentless drive. Would they align with the humans, or would they try to take them down before they grew too powerful? The Fraxians, another empire with vast resources and a history of expansion, saw opportunity in humanity's rise. They weren't interested in an alliance, but in a chance to annex Earth and its colonies for themselves. But the humans had already shown they weren't easily cowed. Any empire that wanted to challenge humanity now would have to think twice before making a move. In the neutral zones, the story of the Zorathian defeat spread like a storm, sparking both fear and respect. Small factions and independent systems, who had always been wary of getting involved in galactic conflicts, now saw humanity as a potential ally or adversary. The balance of power was shifting, and no one knew what the future held. Back on the Righteous Fury, Captain Elena Martinez and her crew knew they had sent a shockwave through the galaxy, but they also knew they were just getting started. Humanity had taken its first steps into galactic warfare, and the road ahead was full of uncertainty. They had proven themselves in one battle, but the true test was still to come. As the command deck fell silent once more, Elena stood before her crew, her voice calm but resolute. "This is only the beginning. We've shown them what we're capable of, but we need to stay vigilant. They'll come for us again, but this time, we'll be ready." Commander Anders stepped forward, his face filled with respect. "Captain, what's our next move?" Elena turned to face him, a determined gleam in her eyes. "We'll make sure everyone knows what happens when they challenge humanity. We're not just survivors. We're conquerors." The galaxy was still buzzing with the aftermath of the battle. The news of humanity's victory over the Zorathian fleet spread like wildfire. The Zorathians had underestimated the humans, and now the galaxy was uncertain of what to expect. The fear that humanity's success could disrupt the balance of power was evident across all sectors. Back aboard the Righteous Fury, Captain Elena Martinez and her crew were bracing themselves for the next phase of their journey. While they had dealt a heavy blow to the Zorathian fleet, they knew that this was only the beginning. There would be many challenges ahead. Every empire, every faction, and every race across the stars would be watching closely. Their next move could change everything. Elena stood before her crew, a new fire in her eyes. She had always been a leader, but now she was something more. She wasn't just guiding her people through a battle. She was leading them into a future where humanity's place in the galaxy would be as important as any other species. The galaxy would no longer see humans as insignificant. They would know fear. They would know respect. "Get ready for a bumpy ride," Elena said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "We've made our mark, but we've only scratched the surface of what's to come. We have no idea who's watching us or who's preparing to make their move. The Zorathians won't be the only ones with a score to settle." Lieutenant Tara Dyer stepped forward, a look of concern on her face. "Captain, we've just received a transmission from the Archelians. It's not a threat, but it's curious." Elena's brow furrowed. "Curious. They want a meeting," Tara continued, her voice steady. "They say it's time to talk about an alliance." An uneasy silence swept over the crew. The Archelians were a powerful and highly advanced race, known for their neutral stance in galactic politics. If they were reaching out to humanity, it was significant. But Elena knew better than to assume it was all goodwill. "Set up the meeting," Elena ordered, her voice sharp but calm. "But keep everything in mind. The Archelians don't make moves like this without a reason." As the crew prepared for the upcoming meeting, Elena's thoughts raced. What could the Archelians want? And why now, after humanity's victory over the Zorathians? Elena knew they had to be cautious. This could be the opportunity they needed to form alliances with powerful factions, or it could be the beginning of a trap. Meanwhile, the Zorathian Empire, though defeated, was not easily dismissed. Word of their loss spread quickly through their ranks, and the Council of Elders knew that they had to act. The shame of their failure was unbearable, and their pride was wounded. However, they were not a species that backed down. They would return, stronger than before, and they would make humanity pay for their defiance. An emergency war council was held aboard the Zorathian flagship, Havoc's Grasp, a formidable warship. The elder leaders, their faces twisted with rage and determination, gathered around a holographic display of the galaxy. The humans must be eliminated. The High Elder Zun's voice was cold and calculating. "We cannot allow them to take root in our space. If we allow this affront to go unpunished, we risk losing our authority across the galaxy." A younger commander, his face marked with scars from the battle, spoke up. "But their ship, the Righteous Fury, We've never seen anything like it. Their technology is more advanced than we anticipated. We can't afford another defeat. Zun's eyes narrowed. We will study their tactics. We will adapt. We've underestimated them once, and we will not make that mistake again. Prepare the fleet. As the Zorathian war machine began to prepare for its next move, the humans were already taking steps to bolster their defenses. Captain Elena Martinez was not naive. She knew the Zorathians would return, and when they did, humanity would need every advantage they could get. On the Righteous Fury, Elena sat in her captain's chair, looking out at the stars. The silence was deafening. The crew was ready for whatever came next, but Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was shifting. Humanity's place in it was becoming more and more clear, but it was still fragile. "Captain," Anders said, breaking the silence, "the Arcalians are ready for the meeting. They're awaiting us in the Alpha Zeta system." Elena nodded. "Let's not keep them waiting. But keep your guard up. I don't trust them completely." As the Righteous Fury moved towards the meeting coordinates, Elena couldn't help but feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. There was so much at stake now. Allies and enemies alike were all watching, waiting to see what the humans would do next. The galaxy was never going to be the same again.